Good evening, all of you. My name is Ashok. I'm having total 9 years experience in the IT industry. Currently, I'm working as a technical lead for one of the MNC company. Fine. So that is very quick introduction about myself, and let's get started with our class for today. So this is Linux class, Linux with the shell scripting. We are going to discuss about Linux and shell scripting for next 15 to 20 days of time. Right. What is this Linux? Linux is one operating system. Linux is one operating system. First of all, what is operating system? Why we need to know about the operating system and what are the operating systems available in the market that we need to understand. What is operating system? Operating system is a software that acts as an interface between computer and hardware components. Right? Operating system means what? Operating system is also called as OS. Operating system is also called as OS. Operating system is a software that acts as an mediator, as an interface or mediator, acts as an interface between computer, hardware components and user. Right? We all are users. We are using computer to perform several operations. Right? Now there is one user who wants to use that computer to perform some operations. He wants to store some data in the computer. He wants to perform some calculations in the computer. Computer means what? It contains several hardware components. This computer contains several hardware components like CPU will be available and some keyboard will be available and one mouse will also be available. This is one system. Now, how this user can communicate with this computer? For that, we need one mediator. Who is that mediator? We are going to use operating system as a mediator between the computer and user. Without using operating system, without having operating system, we cannot use any computer. Without operating system, there is no use of any computer. It's mandatory that every computer should have one operating system. Monitor here, CPU is available, monitor will be there, CPU will be available, keyboard will be available, mouse will be available. These all are hardware components. Now, as a user, I want to communicate with the hardware components of my computer. In order to communicate with hardware components of my computer, I'm going to install one operating system in the computer. All right, guys. What is the operating system? Operating system is a software that acts as an interface between computer hardware components and the user. Some people will call this as interface between the user and hardware components, or some people will call it as mediator between the computer and user. Operating system acts as a mediator between the computer hardware components and user. Every computer must have at least one operating system to run the programs. That means without having operating system, we cannot use that computer. Every computer must have at least one operating system. Every computer must have at least one operating system to run other programs. Now see here, in my computer, I am using Paint to write some notes. In my computer, I'm using a Paint to write some notes. Paint is one program in my operating system. In my operating system, I can use a notepad. In my operating system, I can use the browser. I can use the calculator. All these things are programs which are running in my computer. How I am running those programs in my computer? I am having operating system in my computer. Every computer must have at least one operating system to run other programs. All right. Operating system will provide the platform to run other applications. What this operating system is doing in our computer? Operating system providing platform or environment to run our applications. What applications we are going to run in our operating system? Example, we are running browsers. People are using multiple browsers in the machines. Internet Explorer browser, Firefox browser, Google Chrome browser, like that. Yeah, I mean, IE browser is available. Microsoft Edge browser is available. Browser is one application which is running in the operating system. All right. Browsers are available, and Notepad we are using. Notepad is one program. MS Paint is available. That is also one program. Calculator is available. That is also one program, etc. So in order to run these applications, we need some platform. That platform is called operating system. Operating system providing the platform or environment to run our applications. Operating system helping us to communicate with the computer without knowing how to speak the computer language. Now, if you want to communicate with another person, you will choose one language like English or Hindi or Tamil or Gujarati, Bhojpuri, Kannada. Like that, there are several languages are available. By using those languages, we can communicate with other people. So similarly, if you want to communicate with a computer, you need to know the computer language. Computer programming languages you need to know, like Java or C, C++, Python, Pascal, COBOL, Fortran, like that. There are so many programming languages are available. By using those programming languages, we are going to communicate with the computer. But operating system is helping us to communicate with the computer without knowing computer programming language. Are you guys able to understand? Now, you are using Windows operating system. In the companies, we will use Linux operating system. Why we are using this operating system? Operating system helping us to communicate with the computer without knowing how to speak the computer's language. Operating systems helping us to communicate with the computer, without knowing how to speak a computer language. We don't know how to speak the computer language, but still we are able to communicate with the computer by using this operating system, right? We cannot use a computer without having operating system. That is very important, guys. We have to remember. We can't use a computer without having operating system. Guys, now tell me, operating system is mandatory or operating system is optional for us? Operating system is mandatory or operating system is optional for us? Operating system is mandatory. If you want to use a computer, then definitely that computer should have at least one operating system. Operating system is a software that acts as an interface between computer hardware components and the user. Now, we can see the computer which will have a monitor, which will have a CPU, keyboard, mouse, motherboard, RAM, hard disk, like that. There are so many components are available. Now, if I want to use those components, I need operating system as an interface or operating system as a mediator. All right. Every computer must have at least one operating system to run other programs or applications. Now, what do you mean by other program or applications? Browser is one application we are using. If you want to open the Facebook in your computer, you will open the browser. In the browser, you will type the URL. Browser is one application. If you want to write some notes, then you will go for Notepad to write the data. If you want to draw some diagram, then you will go for a Paint. If you want to do some calculations, you will go for a calculator. All these are applications which are available in the computer, and we are using these applications. How we are using these applications? To run these applications, we need some environment or we need some platform, right? Who is providing the platform to run our application? Operating system is providing that platform to run our application. All right. Operating systems are helping us to communicate with computers without knowing how to speak a computer language, We don't know computer language. but still we are able to communicate with the computer by using this operating system. Now guys, tell me, can I use a computer without having operating system? Can I use a computer without having the operating system? Come on. Can I use a computer without having operating system? No, we can't use a computer without having operating system. Operating systems are operating, at least one operating system is mandatory if you want to use the computer. Now, what is the history of the operating system? Guys, this session is very important. I'm going to tell you the history. Then I will tell you why Linux operating system is important. Why every software engineer should know the Linux operating system. Whether you are a DevOps engineer, whether you are a software tester, whether you are a Java fresher, whether you are Java experienced, whether you are a team lead or you are a manager. If you are a software engineer or if you want to become a software engineer, then definitely Linux operating system knowledge is required. Why it is required? Sir, we are already using our laptops with Windows operating system. Then why should we learn the Linux operating system? I will come to that point, guys. Give me few more minutes. I will explain you the importance of the Linux operating system and how I am using the Linux operating system in my job. So as I told you, currently I am working in the company as a technical lead. Even though I am using this Linux operating system every day in my company. Basically, I am a full stack developer. I'm a full stack developer. I will do front end, back end, DevOps operations, AWS cloud. I'm going to use Linux operating system in my daily job. When I'm working in my company project, I will work with Linux operating system. Why? What is the importance? I will come to that point. Please be patient. Give me a few more minutes. I will explain you that part also. Is this clear as of now? Introduction for operating system. Is this clear for all of you? What is operating system? Very good. Guys, you no need to write any running notes because already I am preparing your beautiful notes for you. After the class is completed, I will share the notes with you guys. And I told you how to access these notes also. You just join with us in the Telegram. You can see the steps to access the class notes. You can download the class notes after the class is completed. Don't worry. In our Telegram channel, I have given the steps to download the class notes. You just join in the Telegram. You can see the steps there. That's it. Now, history of the operating system. Operating systems were first developed in the late 1950s to manage tape storage. In which year the first operating system got developed, guys? Operating systems developed in the year of 1950. In 1950s, we can say that operating systems developed in 1950s, almost 70 years back. Yes or no? We are in 2022. Almost 70 years back, this operating system software developed. Now, which company developed this operating system? General Motors Research Lab. General Motors Research Lab implemented the first OS in the early 1950. For their IBM 701 project. For their IBM 701 project, General Motors people implemented the first operating system in their lab in the 1950. Okay, now in the mid 1960s, in the mid of 1960s, operating systems started using disks to store the data. Operating systems started using disks. Now, after that, in the late 1960s, in the mid of 1960s, they started using disks. In the late 1960s, the first version of the Unix operating system developed. The first version of Unix operating system developed. So Unix operating system came in the year of 1960. Okay. After that, the first OS built by Microsoft was DOS. The first operating system developed by Microsoft is MS-DOS operating system. Today, we are using Windows operating system. Windows is from Microsoft. But Microsoft is not the first OS developed by Microsoft. Windows is not the first OS developed by Microsoft company. The first OS developed by Microsoft is MS-DOS operating system. MS-DOS operating system. Okay, that operating system developed in the year of 1981. That also Microsoft company did not develop everything from the scratch. They purchased that from some other company and they have modified that MS-DOS operating system. MS-DOS operating system. Right? In the 1985, first operating system came into market with GUI, graphical user interface. Whatever you are seeing in the computer now, that is called GUI. GUI. The present day popular, now whatever the operating system we are using with the GUI that came into market. First OS with GUI came into market in the year of 1985. In the year of 1985. In 1985, operating system released with GUI, graphical user interface. Graphical user interface. We are able to see the files. We are able to see the folders. We are able to click on the file. We are able to click on the folder. That means we are having some GUI. We are having some GUI. All right. When that operating system came into market with the GUI in the year of 1985. In the year of 1985. Currently, we are using Windows 3, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, Windows 11. Windows 11 is the current version of the Windows operating system. Windows 11. Windows operating system we are using. Are you guys clear with this one? Are you guys clear with this one? How these operating systems came into the market? Operating system is acting as a mediator between user and hardware components. Without using operating system, we cannot use the computer. Operating systems started in the year of 1950s. So later in the 1960s, the first version of the Unix operating system developed. So Microsoft company developed their first operating system in 1981, that is MS-DOS operating system. After that, in 1985, Microsoft company released the operating system with the GUI. Now that is what we are using as a Windows operating system. That is what we are using as a Windows operating system. Windows operating system is recommended for personal use, guys. If you are using a computer for your personal purpose, if you are a student, you want to use the computer to learn some courses, or you want to store some personal data, your contacts, your pictures, your files, your class notes, your class videos, such kind of personal usage requirement if you have, then it is recommended to go for Windows. Windows operating system will have graphical user interface. That means you can see the buttons, you can click on the button, you can search for something, you can open the file, you can write the data, everything you can do by using that graphical user interface. Windows operating system is used for personal use. Windows operating system given by Microsoft. Windows operating system we are using for personal use. Currently, we are using Windows operating system in our machines, in our computers or laptops. Even in my laptop, I'm using Windows operating system. Windows operating system recommended for personal use. Windows OS is recommended for personal use. Windows operating system is recommended for personal use. Windows is single user based operating system. Windows is single user based operating system. That means only one person can use this Windows operating system at a time. Only one person can use this Windows operating system at a time. Now, what about this Windows operating system for projects? We are going to develop some projects in the company and we want to run our projects. So now I have developed one Java application. Assume that, guys, whether it is a Java or .NET or Python, whatever it is. I'm taking example of one Java project. So many people involved in this project development. Some developers are available. Those people developed the code for this project. Now I want to run this project. For Java project, code is available, guys. Java project source code is available. Now I want to run this project. Where we are going to run this project, we need to set up one server. We need to set up one server in order to run our project. We need to set up one server in order to run our project. Okay, so as example, we are going to use Apache Tomcat server. Then whatever the source code is available, we will package our source code and we are going to keep that code in one server. That is my web application code. That web application code I'm keeping in the server. I need to install the server. Server is also one software. Server is also one software. Where we need to install this server? We need to install this server in one operating system. We need to, server is one program. In order to run the server, I need a platform. Who is going to provide that platform? Operating system is going to provide that platform. That means we need one computer. In that computer, we are going to use one operating system. In that operating system, we are going to install the server. This is my machine. This is my computer. For this computer, I have a CPU. Are you guys clear with my point? Are you guys clear with my point? Tomorrow, when you develop a project in the company, that company project we have to deploy in one server. That company project we have to deploy in one server. So server is also one program. We have to install that server in one operating system. That operating system we are going to install in the computer. That means I'm going to run my project in a computer. If I want to use that computer, what is required? Operating system is required. If I want to use that computer, operating system is required. I'm going to install the operating system. In that operating system, we are going to install the server. In that server, we are going to run our application. So without having an operating system, we cannot use that computer. Without having an operating system, we cannot use that computer. There are several operating systems are available, guys. Windows operating system, Linux operating system, Unix operating system, Mac operating system. Like that, there are several operating systems are available. Mainly, here I am going to compare Windows operating system and Linux operating system. Windows operating system given by Microsoft company, which is having GUI. This Windows operating system is recommended for personal use. If you are using a computer for your personal purpose, then you can go for Windows operating system. But if you want to run your project in the company, Windows operating system is not at all recommended. No company will use that Windows operating system directly to run our applications because Windows operating system is costly. We have to purchase the license of the Windows operating system, and there is a chance of attacking virus for the Windows operating system. That's why we will install antivirus softwares in our operating system. And Windows operating system is single user based operating system. That means only one person can access that machine at a time. So that's why in the companies, in real-time environment, we will use Linux OS to run our applications. In real-time environment, we will use Linux OS to run our applications. Whatever the projects that companies are developing in the real-time environment, those projects we are going to run in the Linux operating system. Okay, now guys, now do you understand where we will use Windows operating system, where we will use Linux operating system, where we will use Windows operating system, where we will use Linux operating system? Are you able to understand? Come on. Where we will use Windows operating system, where we will use Linux operating system. Do you have that clarity now? Windows operating system we will use for personal computers. Windows operating system we will use for personal computer. Where we will use Linux operating system, Linux operating systems we will use in the real time to run our applications. In the real time to run our applications, we are going to use Linux operating system. Okay, now why we need to use the Linux in the real time? We need to compare Windows operating system and Linux operating system. There are so many advantages are there when you go for Linux operating system. First advantage, Linux is open source operating system. Linux is free. And Linux is a multi-user based operating system. Linux is a secured operating system. Why we are going for use Linux operating system? Linux is free and open source. You can use the Linux operating system for free of cost, and the Linux operating system source code is also available. Linux is free and open source operating system. Linux is multi-user operating system, multi-user based operating system, multi-user based operating system. That means multiple people can connect to the same Linux machine at a time. All those things we will see in the coming classes. Multiple users can connect to Linux operating system at a time. Linux is highly secured operating system. Linux is highly secured operating system. Linux is highly secured operating system. Because of these reasons, we are going to use Linux operating system in the real time to run our applications. Windows OS is available. Windows OS is a commercial OS, guys. Microsoft is not giving the Windows for free. We are using crack version of the Windows. We are not purchasing the real license of the Windows. Most of our people are using crack version of the Windows. We are not purchasing the version of the, license of the Windows. Windows is commercial software. Windows is commercial software. We have to purchase the Linux. We have to purchase the license of the Windows. When it comes to the Linux, Linux is free or Linux is commercial. Linux is free and open source. You can use the Linux operating system for free of cost, and source code of the Linux is also available. You can use the source code of the Linux and you can customize that operating system according to your requirement. And Linux is multi-user based operating system. That means multiple people can connect to single Linux machine, can perform multitasking. Right. Linux is a highly secured operating system. When compared with the Windows, Linux operating system is highly secured. Because of these reasons, we are using Linux operating system in the real time to run our applications. Are you guys clear with my point? Why we are using Linux operating system in the real time? Linux is free and Linux is open source. Linux is multi-user based operating system. What is the meaning of multi-user based operating system? Guys, assume that I have one Linux machine in my company. I have one Linux machine, Linux computer, a computer with Linux operating system available. This computer is available in USA client location. In client location, I have this computer where I have installed my server and I am running my application. Are you guys clear with my point? In the client location, I have one Linux machine. In that Linux machine, I have installed one server. In that server, my application is running. Now, this is my app. I have taken one computer. In that computer, I have taken web application. This is my web application. I have taken one web application. I have deployed that web application in the server. Server is installed in one machine. That machine is available in the client location. Now, my application is not working successfully. There is some problem. In my application. Now, developers are available in different location. Whenever we get some problem in the project, developers has to connect to that server, and the developers should understand what is happening in that server, why our application is not running. So for our application, multiple developers are available and multiple administrators also available. Multiple developers are available, multiple administrators also available. This developer is available in Hyderabad location, HYD developer, and he is Pune developer. He is administrator in the Delhi location. But where is my Linux machine available? My Linux machine available in the client location in the USA. All these people can connect to the same Linux machine at a time. That is called multi-user operating system. Developer is checking, is there any problem in the code? Administrator is checking, is there any problem with the server? So multiple team members are connecting to the same machine at a time. Developers and administrators are connecting to the server. HYD, developer in HYD, dev in HYD. He is also Pune developer. Delhi, he is server admin. Is a server admin. Now, 3 people are available in 3 different locations. My computer is available in some other location. Computer is available in the United States of America. That is my client location. In that location, we have a computer. In that computer, we have a Linux operating system. In that Linux operating system, we installed the server. In that server, we have deployed our application. Who will deploy the applications to the servers in the company? DevOps people will do the deployment. DevOps engineers are going to do the deployment. Who will set up these machines in the cloud? AWS engineers are going to set up the servers in the cloud. DevOps people are going to deploy the application into the server. Whenever some problem occur in that application, developer should see what is the problem in the server. If server is not working, that server administrator will connect to the server and we'll see that. That means multiple people can connect to the same computer at a time. That is called multi-user operating system. If you go for Windows, is it possible? No. Windows is a single user operating system. If one user connected to the Windows by using RDP, second user has to disconnect. If a second user connected to that, first user has to disconnect. Windows is single user based operating system. Linux is multi-user operating system. Multiple users can connect to the Linux machine at a time. Multiple users can connect to Linux machine at a time. That's why it is called as multi-user based operating system. Multiple users can execute multiple applications. That is called multitasking. Multiple users can connect to Linux machine at a time. That's why it is called as multi-user operating system. Now guys, do you understand why I am saying that Linux is multi-user based operating system? Multiple users can connect to the Linux machines at a time. That's why this Linux is called as multi-user based operating system. Do you need to purchase the license of the Linux? Do you need to purchase the license of the Linux, or it is not required? Do you need to purchase the license of the Linux, or it is not required? Come on. Do you need to purchase the license of the Linux, or it is not required? It's not required because Linux is free. Linux is free. And is it providing the security? Is it providing the security? Yes. If the Linux is not providing the security, why companies will use the Linux? It's already proven that when compared with the Windows, Linux is having tight security and a high security. When compared with the Windows operating system, Linux is having very good security features. That's why in the companies we are going to use Linux operating system for deploying or for running our applications. Now, guys, who will use Linux machines in the company? Who will use Linux machines in the company? Guys, now see here. AWS engineers will set up Linux machines in cloud. Cloud engineers, we can say cloud, Azure cloud or AWS cloud or GCP. Cloud engineers will set up Linux machines in the cloud. DevOps engineers will deploy our applications in the servers which are running in Linux OS, Developers will connect to the servers. Developers will connect to Linux machines to check server or application logs. Now, all these three teams are using the Linux, or only DevOps people are using the Linux? Only DevOps people will use the Linux, or different teams also will use the Linux, guys? Most of the people asked me this question. Actually, we know that I'm a Java developer. I'm teaching Java classes in our institute. Most of my Java students asked me, Ashok, you announced one Linux batch for free of cost. Is it required for us or not? My Spring Boot people, my Java full stack development people, and my Java real-time project Spring Boot people asked me a question. Ashok, you are teaching a Linux course for free. Do we need to attend? Is it helpful for us or not? Now you see, guys, to be frank, in the starting stages of my career, I struggled a lot in the real time because I don't know Linux. Okay, right. Cloud AWS engineers should know how to work with the Linux, because we are going to use the Linux machines only to run our applications. Cloud engineers, whether you are a AWS cloud engineer, or you are a Azure cloud, or you are a GCP cloud engineer, whatever the cloud that you are using, you should have very strong knowledge on the Linux. Otherwise, you cannot set up the platform to run your application. You cannot set up the infrastructure to run the application. In the real time, every application will have the infrastructure in the Linux machine only. Now, cloud engineers should know the Linux. DevOps engineers, definitely AWS people, DevOps engineers should know the Linux. That's mandatory. DevOps engineers will deploy our application in the servers which are running in the Linux operating system. If you want to become a DevOps engineer, you need to deploy the application in the server. Where the servers running in the real time, servers are running in the Linux computer. So you should know what is Linux operating system, how to work with the Linux operating system. Let's come to developers part. Sir, I am a Java developer. I know Spring Boot microservices. Why should I learn the Linux? Tomorrow, your application will be deployed in which computer, sir? Whatever the Java project or Spring Boot project you are developing, where your Spring Boot project will be deployed? In the real time, in the company, if you join a company, TCS or Infosys or whatever it is, any MNC company or any startup company, whatever it is, where your project will be deployed in the company, do you think that they are going to deploy your project in the Windows computer or Linux computer? Where they are going to deploy your project? They are going to deploy your project in the Linux computer. Okay. Who will deploy the project in the Linux computer? DevOps engineer will deploy the project in the Linux computer. Now, suddenly, some problem occurred in your project. DevOps engineer will fix the problem. As a developer, you need to fix the problem. Your code is not working. Some exception is coming in your project. DevOps engineer will fix the problem, or developer should fix the problem? Developer should fix the problem. To fix the problem, you need to check the log file. Where is the log file? It is created inside your computer. What is that computer? Linux computer. So you should know how to connect to the Linux computer or not. You are a developer available in the Hyderabad. Your company provided you a computer. That computer is having a Windows operating system because it is a personal purpose. You are using Windows operating system to write the code. Your code is deployed into Linux operating system. There is a problem in the project. As a developer, you need to connect to the Linux machine. You need to go to the path where the log file available in the Linux machine. You need to open the log file. You need to see the log message. If required, you need to restart the server. That Linux knowledge is mandatory for the developers also. Linux is not for only DevOps people, guys. Linux is required for the developer also. I'm working as a developer in the company. Every day I will connect with my Linux server. I will see how the logs are generating. I will monitor the log files. I will check up my Linux servers by connecting with the Linux machines. Being a developer, I will use the Linux operating system to check the log files of my application. Now, for example, if you don't know the Linux, can you see the log files of your application? If you don't know Linux, can you see the log files of your application? You cannot. If you cannot see the log file, you cannot understand the problem. If you cannot understand the problem, you cannot fix the problem. Then you are not a good developer. Suddenly your manager called you, hey Raju, today we got one null pointer exception in the application. Could you please check the log file and fix the issue? Khel khatam, dukan band. Because you don't know what is Linux. You don't know how to connect with the Linux. You don't know Linux commands. You cannot see the log message. You cannot understand the problem. You cannot fix the problem. So if you want to survive in the industry, then you should know Linux operating system also. Guys, you understand why developers should learn the Linux now? Whether you are a UI developer or whether you are a backend developer, whether you are a software tester, whether you are a DevOps engineer, whether you are a AWS engineer or Azure engineer, Linux is mandatory. Linux is mandatory. So don't think that Ashok sir is teaching Linux for free of cost, so it's waste of time, no need to join. If you don't learn the Linux now, tomorrow once you join in the company, then you will face the problem. Because in the company, everybody should know how to use Linux. Not only for DevOps. So many people will think that Linux is required only for the DevOps people. No, that's wrong assumption. That's a myth. Developers also should know Linux. DevOps people also should know Linux. Every software engineer should know Linux. In the company, every software engineer should know the Linux. Why? Because our projects are running in the Linux only. Now you take Facebook, Flipkart, whatever project is there, that is running in the Linux only in the computer, in the companies. So if you want to deploy the project, you should know Linux. If you want to see the logs of the project, you should know Linux. If you want to set up the infrastructure for the project, you should know Linux. Without Linux, you are not a complete software engineer. If you don't know Linux, you are not 100% software engineer. Software engineer means Linux pe kaam karna hai bhai. That's mandatory. That's mandatory. Do you understand why DevOps people should know Linux? Why developers should know Linux? Now, tell me, Linux is required only for the DevOps people, huh? Linux is required only for the DevOps people, huh? No, every software engineer. Testers also should know Linux. In my project, testers also will connect to the Linux operating system to check the logs of our application. Testers, software testers also will connect to the Linux machine. Developers will connect to Linux. DevOps people will connect to Linux. AWS people will connect to Linux. Every Java developer also should have the knowledge on the Linux, guys. So this is the platform where I'm going to teach you the Linux classes for free of cost for you for the 20 days of time. I will make you very good. I will make you very good programmer on the shell scripting as well. Not only Linux, I'm going to teach you shell scripting also. Okay? Yes, right? DevOps engineers should know the Linux because DevOps people should deploy the project into the servers which are running in the Linux machine. AWS people should know the Linux because they are going to set up the Linux computers. Developers also should know the Linux because developers should connect to the Linux to understand the problems. Should connect to the Linux to understand the problems. All right, fine. So what is operating system? Operating system is a software that acts as an interface between computer hardware component and the user. If one user wants to use a computer, operating system is mandatory. Every computer must have at least one operating system to run other programs. Operating system providing the platform to run our applications. Operating system helping us to communicate with the computer without knowing how to speak the computer language. We cannot use a computer without having operating system. Operating systems developed in 1950s. So mainly we are talking about Windows operating system and Linux operating system. Windows operating system developed by Microsoft company. That Windows operating system is a paid operating system, and Windows operating system is single user based operating system. Whereas Linux is free operating system and open source. The source code of the Linux is also available. If you want, you can modify the Linux OS also, right? That is nothing but free and open source. In the real time, why I am teaching the Linux here, the reason is in the real time, we will use Linux only for running our applications. In the real time, we will use Linux OS only to run our applications. Okay, why we are going to use Linux? When we compare Windows operating system and Linux operating system, Linux is having more features. Linux is free and open source. Linux is a multi-user based operating system. Linux is a highly secured operating system. So tomorrow I will tell you, so many people will get a doubt. Sir, अगर ये OS free है तो security कैसे मिलेगा? कैसे security मिलेगा? How it is secured when it is free? And why it is free? These are the doubts people may get. Am I right? Sir, why Linux is free? And how Linux is secured? Yeah. And how this Linux came into market? That history of the Linux I will discuss in the tomorrow session. So today I'm just telling you why you have to learn the Linux. Multi-user operating system means multiple people can connect to the Linux machine at a time. Okay. Now, who will use the Linux machines in the real-time environment? Cloud engineers will set up the Linux machines in the cloud to run our applications, infrastructure. AWS engineers or Azure engineers are going to set up the infrastructure setup. Infrastructure we are going to set up by using Linux machines only. Cloud engineers will set up the Linux machines in the cloud. Okay. DevOps engineers will deploy our application in the servers which are running on the Linux OS. DevOps engineers also will use the Linux OS. Developers will connect to the Linux machine to check server or application logs. Every software engineer should know Linux OS to survive in the industry. That's mandatory, guys. I will upload these class notes into our website. I told you how to download the class notes also. Please join with us in the Telegram so that you can see the steps to download the class notes. I have given the steps in the Telegram group to download the class notes. I will upload these class notes into our website. Tomorrow I will give you history of the Linux. Who developed this Linux operating system? Why the Linux is free? How the Linux is secured? All the things that I'm going to discuss in the tomorrow session. And tomorrow I will tell you how to set up the Linux computer for our practice. How to set up the Linux machine for our practice that I'm going to discuss in the tomorrow session. Don't miss the tomorrow session. You can join the class with the same Zoom link. Tomorrow sharp 7 p.m. our Linux class will start. This is free course, no backup videos. You have to join the live session. Class notes will be provided. After this Linux, AWS will start. After AWS, DevOps will start. It is a continuation. Linux, after Linux, AWS, after AWS, DevOps. Okay, fine guys. Thank you. Linux will be there for 2 to 3 weeks of time. 2 to 3 weeks of time, Linux classes will be available. Good. Thank you guys. Thank you. I will see you in the tomorrow session. Tomorrow we'll discuss about history of the Linux and how to set up the Linux for our practice. Tomorrow at 7 p.m. Thank you guys. Thanks for joining.